The captain of the transport ship was checking on the passengers when a few of the young ones asked, "You got any advice?" The captain paused and thought, "It's always wise to be a companion to a human." They were confused, but he continued, "The reason is not their size, strength, or speed, or even though they are exceptional, all three. It isn't the fact that they're willing to place themselves in rather dangerous environments to, as they put it, get the job done. It is not the fact that once they pair bond with you, they will risk everything, to include their lives, to protect and or save you. It isn't even the fact that despite their monstrous strength and battlefield prowess, that you can still trust them to hold your hatchlings with such care that the young ones would confuse the human touch with their own mothers. It is the fact that a human is always prepared." Captain Verdict stated this to the passengers aboard his transport very loudly so he had their full attention. He did this as most of these passengers are just now heading out to the stars to begin the search for their fortunes. He realized most of them will not find it, as there are far too many temptations to keep their coin out of their purse. Along with that, there is a high number of scammers and thieves to make it their life's work to remove the coin from decent folks. He had to shrug off this thought, as most will eventually return after a few decades, nearly as broke as they are now, as they drink away what little bit of retirement pay that they receive. That was until the humans. The captain continued his talk. "Back when I started working on the loading docks of Station L2, also known as Lilith Station, I was very susceptible to those that would take advantage of me. After a single solar rotation of the system's furthest planets, I had no coin to my name and was working double and triple shifts just to have enough to get my basic consumables. You see, the gambling, the ethyl alcohol consumption, the clubs, and of course the females had put me into debt, and I was working just to pay off said debts. I figured I would perish on the loading docks at that point and just be swept aside with all the rest of the refuse, as I had nothing to my name and no one to care for me. Then humans came to work as well at the station, and it was like they had prepared for all the issues I had faced. On my very first day with them, I didn't think much of them except that they were very fast and very strong. They completed 3 times as much work, and I believed that I would be fired and replaced by one of them. So I pushed myself beyond my limits just to keep up. Eventually, I woke up after passing out from overexertion, and I realized that a human had actually picked me up and carried me away from the dock so I wouldn't get hurt anymore. As I began to slowly lift myself up in a daze, it told me, slow down and catch your breath." Then it pulled something out of a pouch that was attached to the bottom of his torso. He offered me some of his own water, knowing full well that he would not be able to get more until after the shift, which wasn't for another 8 hours. As I consumed it, he asked me where my water was. When I told him I didn't have the ability to carry any, he simply shook his head. "If you need some, just ask one of us, okay?" As he waved his arm off to the side, motioning to the rest of the humans. This is when I realized that every human had a similar pouch, or two. They had all prepared for the conditions. A week, or was it 2, maybe 3 weeks later, I'm having trouble remember, a gravity feed malfunctioned and sent a heavy container off the feeding system. When it broke open, several sharp items just clambered out, basically exploding rapidly across the area. When this happened, the humans came running in that strange motion with only 2 legs that they seemed to do. oddly graceful at times, but strange. When they got to me, they realized I was bleeding. Another human pulled out a hidden pouch off its lower appendage. Inside were medical instruments and medicines to aid in repairing damages. As he repaired my legs, I realized one of these adhesive bandages was actually on his hand. The humans had prepared for injuries by keeping these pouches on them at all times. In fact, they even had light pharmaceuticals to deal with discomforts. Oh, if you're wondering about those discomforts, sometimes they get pain in their heads for some unknown reason they don't even know. Or if they consume something that does not function well inside their digestive systems. Let's face it, none of you want to shit yourselves at work. With that, a few of those listening laughed before he continued. The humans also brought with them a few recreational devices from their home systems. They had prepared for downtime as well. These would be things like a simple deck of playing cards, as they called them, or something they called board games, or they had a multitude of electronic games, but sometimes they were not able to charge their devices. When not on duty, the majority of humans would simply gather together to, as they put it, shoot the shit. Yes, yes, humans are full of strange phrases such as this. Yet once you understand the context, it is easy to start using them correctly. Plus, they're rather fun to use, but you'll find out later. The humans gathered together to have some recreation while not emptying their purse. Once I decided to join the humans, I was able to start paying down my debts. The humans even encouraged me to stay clear of the bars, the clubs, the gambling, though it was much more difficult not to rent a female. That is, until the humans made sure I was kept far away from those wretched things in order to get out of my debt. To my surprise, even to help me save on the money to pay the debt faster, they would even share their food with me. However, I did learn very quickly to ask what ingredients were in it before eating anything. Remember what I said about shitting yourself at work. Once my debts were nearly clear, the loan sharks, at least that's what the humans call the aquatic species known as the keen, tricked me into joining them for a friendly drink. Before I knew it, I had gone into debt even more. Not as much as I was when the humans arrived, but enough that it would be probably another 6 weeks of pay to deal with it. When the humans I worked with found out about this, they were not happy. Now, it is of note that on the station, there is a very strict no weapons policy. The humans dance around this by having blades in their multi tools, as they call it. Another preparation that has aided me in the past and aids humans constantly. However, they would not be used in this instance. Due to the policy, the species with the best offensive and or defensive attribute believe that they rule the station as no one could stand against them. The keen, with their massive jaws and sharp teeth, as well as being 50% taller than even the humans, are on top of this list. The captain paused for a minute as he saw those listening were suddenly getting a little nervous and anxious because the keen were very, very scary to even look at. But to go hand to hand with one was insane and pretty much suicidal. He continued with, when I arrived at the billets, looking, as the humans put it, like hammered shit, they all became concerned. As they treated my wounds, which were mainly scratch marks down my back as I had paid for a couple females, and I regret it. Plus, there was the swollen eye socket from a keen that, as a reminder, that they now owned me. The humans talked very, very low to each other as they patched me up. those that were not speaking low, probed me for information as they placed me on my bunk. I turned my head and watched the humans pull another preparation out of their pouches. It seemed like each of my human friends had two of these pieces of metal. Each piece has four metal circles in sort of a crescent shape attached to another open piece of metal with an odd design. Each piece of metal seemingly made out of copper. No, that's not right. No, they look as though they're made of brass. As all the humans began to leave at once, another flint dip like me asked, "Where are you all going?" One of the humans responded without even looking, "We're gonna go have a talk with the king." We didn't understand this. The humans came back a few hours later to tell me that my debts were completely called off. I was going to ask them how until I looked over and saw the blood on their hands, and two of the humans walking past pulling keen teeth out of their skin. As they patched each other's wounds, I could see that they even took a strange curved piece of metal, attached a string to it, and used it to close their wounds before covering it with ethyl alcohol to disinfect it. It was strange. As they patched each other up, I could see that they prepared for anything. When I asked them how I could repay them, the humans made an odd sound I recognized as their version of laughter. Then one of them said, "Live a good life. Raise yourself to the greatest heights and never go into debt again. Do that, and we'll call it even." It was at that point that I started studying, and I made my way up to ship captain in only a human decade. Well, a decade and change. You see, young ones, always be friends with a human, as they are not just prepared to take care of themselves, but all those they care about. He said this as he stared down basically all of them, turning his head from one side to the other. Every single Fundip now holding on to every little syllable he was saying. Though he turned and looked at his arm to see when they will be getting to the station. The captain stands up. "I would tell you more, but we will be arriving at the station soon." And then he simply turned and headed back to the cockpit so that he could bring in the transport. An hour later, the ship is docking and the captain sends his announcement over the PA system. "Welcome all passengers to station L2.